Jesus did not come to start a new religion. That was not on his agenda. To get people to change their religion, to change their culture, to become like ours. That's proselytizing, not sharing the good news of Jesus. There are no sacred forms. There are only sacred meanings. Anthropology has the highest percent of agnostics and atheists of all academic disciplines. Anthropologists say that religion is neither true nor false. It's just a cultural byproduct. Well, there's an awful lot of evidence to suggest that the anthropologists might be right. Contextualization is an attempt to communicate the gospel in word and deed. That's very important to me. Living out the gospel is every bit as important as proclaiming it. So much of evangelism and mission is just skating on the surface, just changing people's behavior or changing their religion without a real deep change of their worldview. When the decision was made at the Jerusalem Council that Gentiles could follow Jesus without having to become culturally Jews, that was radical. The enemy is the enemy, not culture. Culture is changing across space from one place to another and down through time. So we have to make sure the gospel is connecting to the culture at all those points. Contextualization, where the meaning is biblical and the form is familiar, turns out to be the best hedge against syncretism. It's foreign Christianity that leads to syncretism. And so I find that syncretism exists everywhere around the world and leads to nominalism, where the form continues and the meaning is lost. Now, incarnation always requires crucifixion. It did for Jesus, and it will for us. There are things we're going to have to die to if we're going to be able to relate to other people in a very deep way. Incarnational identification leads to death and oftentimes means downward mobility, not upward mobility. Peter says, I now realize that God has no favorites. Now, that was a wake-up call for Peter. He was just astounded because he thought, no, the gospel is just for us Jews. Don't consider anything unclean that God has declared clean. Can you follow Jesus and be other than a Jew? God, who knows the thoughts of everyone, showed his approval of the Gentiles by giving the Holy Spirit to them just as he had to us. When we require people to convert culturally as well as spiritually, we are putting God to the test. The gospel is always offensive. It offends me as an American because it offends my individualism.